The road into Hope, Washington stretches like a ribbon of faded asphalt between endless walls of pine. A thin mist clings to the trees, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. A lone figure walks along the shoulder of the road, silent, steady, and weighted with more memories than any pack on his back could carry. His name is John Rambo, but he has not spoken it aloud in months. Names are for people with destinations, with anchors, with homes. He has none of those. He carries only what remains of a life that dissolved somewhere between the jungles of Vietnam and the forgotten highways of America. Rambo's boots thud softly, absorbing the cold dampness of the morning. His hair has grown wild, his jacket torn at the sleeve, his eyes distant but aware, always aware. This is a man who has lived too long on the razor's edge, who has learned that danger rarely announces itself. It hides in the sluggish moments of peace. Ahead, the small town of Hope sits quietly, almost innocently, as though untouched by the madness of the world. Houses stand neat and proper, lawns trimmed, a place that seems to believe itself immune to darkness. But Rambo knows better. He has walked through places that believed the same. He enters Hope not because he seeks shelter or warmth, but because he is searching for something far simpler. A friend. One of the last Marines from his unit still alive. Over the years, he has traced the scattered remnants of his squad like a man following fading footprints in a storm, hoping to preserve at least one familiar piece of the past. He reaches a small house, pale blue with peeling paint. He knocks. There's a moment of silence so delicate that Rambo almost imagines the world pausing with him. A woman answers. Her eyes linger on him, not with fear, but with softness meant for delivering bad news. "I'm looking for Delmar Berry," Rambo says. The woman hesitates. "You're too late." The words hit like a bullet. Not loud, not violent, just final. He died last year. Cancer, from the chemicals they sprayed over there. The jungle returns to him, flashes of orange clouds drifting like poison mist, the sting against his skin, the cries of men coughing, vomiting, shaking. Rambo exhales slowly, but the breath feels like it's made of broken glass. Another piece of his world gone. He thanks the woman, though he barely hears his own voice. As he walks away, the town's silence grows louder, swelling around him like a tide. With that final loss, the truth settles harshly. Every friend he fought beside, every brother he bled with, gone. He walks without purpose now, just movement, just survival. Each step wipes away another fraction of the past, but the emptiness only grows heavier. The sheriff. At the edge of town, a police car rolls to a stop beside him. Sheriff Will Teasel steps out. A man with a clean uniform, trimmed hair, and an expression sharpened by control. Hope is his town, and he intends to keep it that way. "You passing through?" Teasel asks, his tone friendly but firm. "Just looking for a place to eat," Rambo replies. Teasel studies him. His coat, his duffel, the wear in his eyes. To Teasel, this isn't a soldier. This is a drifter. And in Hope, drifters are problems. "There's nothing for you here," Teasel says. "The diner's north of town. I'll give you a ride." It's not a suggestion. Rambo enters the car without resistance. Not because he fears the sheriff, but because he no longer fights battles that don't matter. Not yet. They drive in silence until Teasel drops him on the opposite side of Hope, pointing him toward the highway. "Good luck," Teasel says, turning back toward town. Rambo watches the car disappear. Then he turns around and begins walking back. Not out of defiance, not to provoke, but because he wants a warm meal, and he has walked too long to accept a door slammed in his face. When peace is mistaken for defiance.
The sheriff's patrol car screeches to a halt beside him again. "I thought I told you," Teasel snaps. "I want something to eat," Rambo says calmly. Teasel's lips tighten. Respect for a stranger has limits, especially in a small town where order is fragile and pride is everything. "You're under arrest," Teasel declares. "For what?" Rambo asks. "Vagrancy. Resisting a lawful order." Rambo doesn't resist when the sheriff cuffs him. His muscles could snap steel like twigs, but he has lived through too much to let pride dictate his actions. He's taken into the Hope police station, a place too clean, too polished, a place that masks cruelty with fluorescent lights and rules posted on walls. Inside, some officers look at Rambo with curiosity, others with a smirk of men who believe a uniform grants them superiority. "Let's clean him up," one of them says. They strip him of his coat, they pull at his arms roughly, they tell him to shave. When he resists, a reflex born from war, not rebellion, a baton cracks across his ribs. In their eyes, Rambo is a stray dog. In his mind, they've just stepped into a battlefield without knowing it. Then a deputy approaches carrying a straight razor. "Hold still." The room shrinks. The air thickens. Rambo's heartbeat doesn't speed up, it detonates. And suddenly, flashbacks. Rain pouring on bamboo leaves, a knife pressed to his skin, hands tied, a blade slicing. The screams of prisoners in cages, the echo of his own voice when he thought he would never hear it again. He snaps. Not in rage, in survival. His hand shoots forward, grabbing the deputy's wrist. A chair crashes, a man falls, another lunges, shouting. The room explodes into chaos. Rambo doesn't fight like a brawler. He fights like a ghost, silent, precise. Every motion designed to end an opponent in seconds. Within moments, the station is a swirl of groans and shattered pride. Then, he runs. The escape into the wilderness. He bursts out of the police station, hijacks a motorcycle, and rockets down the cold highway. The wind slashes across his face, but freedom burns warmer than anything he's felt in months. Behind him, Teasel follows, headlights slicing through the mist. The chase is fast, vicious, and reckless. Rambo rides like a man who has outrun death before. Teasel follows like a man whose ego has been wounded. Rambo veers off the road, up a muddy hillside into dense forest. The motorcycle dies in a spray of dirt, but Rambo keeps running. The trees swallow him in seconds. Here, the wilderness welcomes him like an old friend. The forest is danger to ordinary men. To Rambo, it is home, a sanctuary shaped from instinct and memory. He melts into the terrain, disappearing as naturally as mist between branches. He hears their movements, maps their positions, assesses their weaknesses. He does not want to hurt them, but they refuse to listen, and the forest will not protect those who disrespect it. The hunt begins. Above the treetops, clouds churn. The wind grows colder. The forest darkens around Teasel's officers, each tree stretching like a sentinel, each shadow a warning. But they don't see warnings, only a man they think is a criminal. A helicopter sweeps in, whipping the trees with its blades. An officer leans out with a rifle. Rambo climbs a cliffside, hands gripped on wet rock, the river roaring below. A shot cracks, blasting stone near his head. Another shot. Another. "I'm warning you," Rambo shouts. But they don't stop. Fear makes men deaf. Then the officer slips on the helicopter skid. He falls, hard, onto the rocks below. Dead. Rambo stares down at the body, breathing heavily. "I didn't do this," he whispers. "I didn't kill him." But Teasel doesn't care. All he sees is a challenge, a threat, a stranger who dared to disrupt the order he believes he controls. He orders a full-scale hunt. Dogs, guards, roadblocks. The forest becomes a battleground. Rambo becomes the ghost who haunts it.
With every passing minute, something inside Rambo reawakens. Something he spent years trying to bury. His training, his instincts, his ability to survive where others perish. He watches the deputies stumble through the woods with flashlights and heavy breaths. They shout commands through the darkness, believing volume equals power. But Rambo moves faster, quieter. He creates diversions, footprints leading the wrong way, branches snapped in misleading directions. He sets traps that disable but do not kill. He neutralizes officers without spilling blood. A tripwire that sends a deputy tumbling, a harmless snare that hoists another upside down, a warning knife to the throat without drawing blood. Each act deliberate, each decision controlled. He wants them to stop. He wants to end this without turning it into war. But when a man has only known violence, people mistake his restraint for weakness. Near a ridge, Rambo catches Teasel alone. He steps from the shadows like a nightmare made flesh. "I didn't start this," Rambo says quietly. "I don't want to hurt anyone." Teasel lifts his gun. Rambo presses a cold knife to his cheek before the sheriff can pull the trigger. "Let it go," Rambo warns, "or I'll give you a war you won't believe." Then he vanishes into the forest, leaving Teasel shaken and breathless. For the first time, the sheriff feels fear. Not of the forest, not of the darkness, but of the man moving through it like a storm waiting to break. The pause before the storm. Night falls. Rain begins to pour, hissing through leaves and drenching the earth. Rambo builds a small shelter from scraps, branches, bark, vines, turning nature into armor. The cold bites at his skin, but he has endured far worse. His only companions are memories, flickering like dying sparks. He thinks of Delmar Berry, of Danforth, of all the men who fought beside him and now lie beneath the ground or inside forgotten graves. He closes his eyes, but sleep comes in fragments, shards of nightmares, flashes of screams, the sound of bamboo bending in the wind, the echo of rotors slicing through humid air. In the distance, sirens wail, searchlights sweep. Teasel mobilizes every resource he can find. The forest trembles under the weight of men who do not understand it. He exhales slowly, letting the breath merge with the rain. He did not choose this war. It chose him. Again. And tomorrow the world will learn what happens when a man trained to survive the impossible is pushed beyond his limits.